Hi, and welcome to my presentation, Run Theia without a backend. A short word to myself. So I am Stefan Dirix. I'm a software architect working at EclipseSource. Okay, run Theia without a backend. What does this actually mean? So I guess you're all familiar with the main principal architecture of Theia. So we have the front end running in some browser, and we have the node backend. And running without a backend actually means exactly that. No backend in place. Why should we do that? There are actually a lot of good reasons for that. So if you think about it, if you run Theia without a backend, what is left? It's basically a static site, which means it's simple. For example, you can host it anywhere. You can host it on Netlify, you can host it on GitHub pages. Basically, any good old web server will do. And this means it's super cheap. Super cheap to deploy, as you don't need to run your node server somewhere. So you don't need Kubernetes or whatever server you want to deploy. In the end, this means because of the simplicity, we have a gain in performance, we have a gain in scalability. It's inherently more secure, as you don't have to worry about any exploits on your server. It's cheaper and it's simpler. However, there's a compromise, of course. So there's a reason why there is a Theia backend. The compromise is that you are obviously very restricted in your feature set. Just as a quick example which comes to mind, obviously, if there's no Theia backend, where's the file system coming from? You don't get any plugin support because the plugins are running in the backend. And you don't have any access to your tools, to your APIs. Maybe you have some JRE running and you can't access it anymore, right? There's no backend. So it's basically, you have to think about your use cases, and then it makes sense to use a Theia without a backend or not. Okay. Now, this feature doesn't come out of nowhere. It has to be implemented. And it's actually not yet in the Theia code base, but I will come to the details later. For the external windows, Jonas showed before, this iterative development approach was very successful. So we started with only supporting secondary windows for browser and only for VS Code extensions, and slowly crawled up, and now there's terminal supported electron and so on. So we want to go the same approach with the backendless Theia. So what's the minimal viable product of running Theia without a backend? First, we need some kind of file system, because Theia without a file system is just weird. Right? There would be basically nothing left besides a little bit of window management. So that's the goal. Implement a browser-based file system. We looked around and we settled on BrowserFS, which is a very mature and would say stable file system library for the browser. Then add tooling support. What does tooling support mean? The idea is, to introduce a new target. So we no longer only have a browser target and an electron target, but actually also a browser-only target. And then with this modified tools, we can generate our new front-end-only Theia and work with that. And the tooling support is super crucial because this now enabled us to have iterative development. Okay, let's come to the nice to have a little bit later. I just want to very, very quick show you something. So I will open a new window. And let me just paste in our hosted minimal variant of Theia. And there we are. So it's already loaded. Everything is here. This is actually now a Theia without a backend. it's the minimal Theia which you can have. So we basically threw out all of the optional extensions of Theia, and yeah, there we are. And as you can see, already looks good. It's quite reactive. You can see things are. I can open some things. I have some kind of file system. I can add something. I can write. I can even reload. The file is still there. It's pretty awesome. We'll come to the details of that a little bit later. I just wanted to quickly give you a teaser. So, okay. I said iterative development is super important. So let me just show you what this means. What changes did we do to the tooling? What I have here is basically Theia on the state of our contribution. Let me open VS Code so we can take a quick look. So the first thing which you will see is, oh, there's a new example. It's the browser-only example. And yeah, it looks like all the other examples which are in the Theia code base. However, there's also a new target. So here we are now using this browser-only target. Let me now execute a build. Let me switch to my terminal again. So I'll just say yarn browser-only build. Okay, this kicks now off the regular build structure. However, this has our modifications in place. So looking back to VS Code, you can see so what I just executed was this build here. So nothing weird is happening here. Okay. So let's see. Source gen already completed. So let's have a look at source gen. What's the difference here? So on the first glance, this looks like a regular generated Theia frontend. However, if you have keen eyes, you might already see some things. For example, here there's a module included which is called browser only, frontend only application module. Here we have some E18N frontend only module. So these were actually picked up because we specified the target browser only. How does this work? So let's just quickly take a look at the core package. The idea is that here now you have a new keyword. So you not only have a front end, backend electron, but you also have this new keyword front end only. And the mechanism is super simple and works exactly like the existing mechanism with backend and backend electron. So in case that both front end and front end only are given, only one of them will be chosen, depending on which target is set. So it's usually front end. However, if you set browser only as the target, the front end only will be included instead of the front end. And by this, we are basically able to remove all dependencies which have some link to the backend and replace them with browser alternatives. Okay. Let me go back to my slides. So there we are. So I already teasered, so there's a nice to have. So what would be also nice to have for except for the file system, so it's not technically MVP, so I have it in a separate section. It's to also support VS Code web extensions, right? Compatibility with VS Code extensions is a major feature, which you just heard a lot about. And it would be nice that the VS Code extensions, which are actually VS Code web extensions, so which are intended to run in the browser, if they would also run in our browser-only Theia. So just a short technical excursion. So VS Code web extensions are actually already running in a web worker in Theia. So this is already a given. However, the difficulty here for the browser-only part is how to get them in there. Yeah. So this would be nice to have. I will report later what came to this. Okay, the good news is the contribution is actually already ready. And there's an issue, you can check it out. And there's an open PR. So let's just take a quick look at the issue together. So we don't need to go through all this text, but the good thing is basically anything regarding technical details and so on is documented here. So if you have some question and want to know some details how things are working, just check out this issue. And the best part is we have 3 example applications linked here. The minimal browser one is which I already showed you before. Now let's look at one of the others. Let's look at including all Theia packages. So I will open this up in a new window. I'm just choosing incognito mode to just make sure that I don't have any caching in there which might cheat. I don't want to cheat. I want to present you the full thing. And you saw how fast it again loaded. So this is now the browser-only example application as you just saw it in my code. And this example application is basically the same as the other example application, so it includes everything. So you have your sample menus, for example, which you might already know, and so on. Now I want to show you some cool things, and we will switch between my slides and here. Okay. I lost my slides because they were in the tab here, so there they are. Okay. So this is how the traditional Theia looks like, with the front end and with the back end. I just took 2 features so we can talk about something. So there's the search and workspace service, you know, the search box on the left hand side. This actually talks to the search and workspace server in the back end and then to the file system. And the file service in the front end, it talks to this disk file system provider, which also resides in the back end, and then also accesses the file system this way. And there's already, and this is quite nice, some abstractions in there. So this file service is obviously an abstraction, and things like the preferences already work on this abstraction. Now, what does this mean? If there's no Theia backend, what do we now do? As already said before, we went with browser.s, and now the difference, and this is basically where this front-end only module differs between the browser-only case and the normal browser case. We have now this browser.s file system provider in the front end running. And this is actually how I can show you the file system which we have before. So going back to the application, we already added an example workspace, so you can start with something. So this workspace with this a few example files is already part of this example application. We can just open such a directory, and there are the files. I can change something here, save it, and this is actually here. This is stored in the database of the browser of the so in IndexedDB. Browser.s supports all kinds of storages. You can also save in a local storage. You can also save into a web worker storage, which is pretty large. There you can store up to multiple hundreds of megabytes. It is quite useful. Obviously, use cases are different, so everyone will want to configure this their own way. So already in this contribution, we have foreseen a configuration point, a configuration object which can be injected, and with this configuration, you can basically configure browser.s however you want. Okay, yeah. I think I can show this. I can show this here. So when you switch to the development tools, here in the application, in the IndexedDB, you can see there's the browser.s, and here are basically my files, which we just looked at. Okay, this is pretty cool. Now, when we take a look back at the slides, we can see, okay, the preferences already work on the file service, so they should work too. Let's have a quick look. So if I now go to the preferences, and yeah, let's just change something. The last time I presented, I changed the font size, which was not ideal. I will change something else. Let's change here the autosave delay. So let's just make this to 777 or something. And let's have a look. I have to refresh here. And we can see, this pretty familiar Theia directory was added. And there's the settings with this autosave stored. And if I now reload, and go back to my settings, you can see it's picked up. This is not the default value. You can also reset it again. You can see it changed back. So all of this is automatically working just by exchanging this one service. Pretty cool. Now, as I said, this is an MVP, so we did not have time to adapt everything which is there in Theia. So, for example, I know there's no alternative terminal which we added or something, or which I already talked before. The search in workspace. Let's just enter something. At the moment, just does nothing. To get this to work, to basically make things which are actually still depending on the backend to not crash horribly, we added a fallback. So the search and workspace service, which you just saw, now is still trying to connect to the backend. However, we interjected with our front-end only WebSocket connection provider. And this basically just pretends to connect and does nothing. Which is the best way, I guess, because this means that everything which still tries to connect to a backend, basically something like this. Yeah, the terminal will never show something, and the search will also never complete. Obviously, this should not be like this forever. So once this is merged and more people get on board, all the features should be replaced with features which work natively in the browser-only case. And this is easily doable because of the tooling support. Okay. That's that. Okay. Yeah, that's the current state. Now, I already talked before, I mentioned something about web extensions. And actually, I'm proud that we can actually also present something here. So let's just take a look back at the issue. Oh, too fast. So when we look at the issue, there's actually a third link. And this one is a POC with VS Code web extension support. Ooh, nice. Let's take a look. Actually, this POC not only showcases web extensions, but it also has some more features which people might want. But first, let's show them. So there is what we did here. We added a Theia plugin, right? This is the most simplest extension which you can have, is a Theia plugin. And you might remember, Theia plugins, nobody used them because they're only somehow in the web. Now, here is the perfect use case, right? Now we are front-end only, we don't have a backend. What we want are Theia plugins. So, and we implemented a basic Theia plugin. Yeah, it's typical Hello World. So let's just execute it. And you can see Hello World is there. So this is actually going through the whole plugin mechanism support. So this Hello World message was now generated by a Theia plugin running in a web worker, connecting all the APIs together. So this is basically the proof that this is possible. Now, as I said, we also included something else. So here is a nice thing which you might think about. Okay, how do people get their code in? So we have here an example where you are able to import a repository from GitHub. So let me just bring in some URL. So we'll just take one of our repositories. You can see there's a small progress slider. What basically now happens at the time I'm speaking here, this repository is cloned. Just have to wait a second until it's completed. Okay, let's switch to it. So I'm opening the folder, and now here we have a Git directory. And there's this repository. Okay. And now let's take a look. And here's some TSX files. And what's there? There's syntax highlighting. Because we not only got a basic Theia plugin to work, but we also got the TypeScript language server. So there are multiple ones. This is the most basic one. This is basically the same one which you get when you press dot in GitHub. So it's a little bit basic. So you can see it. The type conclusions are pretty primitive, but it works. So everything is here. You have code navigation. You have a basic type inference. Obviously your syntax highlighting. So everything, I think, which you need for a basic support of language servers. So that's pretty cool. Sadly, this is still only a POC. The reason for that, and it's not part of the contribution, the reason for that is it's just a little bit more work to make this properly supported. As I said, the main difficulty is not to get them to run. So they are already supported, and you just the problem is the whole deployment mechanism is currently just part of the Theia backend and needs to be revamped, and some alternative approaches must be found to have this generically supported in the front end. However, what you can always do is what we did. We basically hard-coded that part to our two extensions, so this Theia plugin and this ADSB server, and just added them. So if you copy this approach, this would also already be possible for you. Okay, let's go back to my slides. Oh, these are not my slides. I lost them. Are they here? They are. Okay. So, what's the current state? So the MVP is ready, and from our point of view, it's already mergeable. As you saw 3 example applications, and they're already hosted in the web, and everything seems pretty stable. If you want to know more about the list of open issues and things we know which you have to tackle at some point, they are all listed in this issue. So please just take a look. Plugin support, as I just showed you, is feasible, requires a bit more work. Now, I know this is all not yet part of Theia. However, you could, if you wanted to, already use that, right? Our contribution is also open source. It's a pull request just linked in the issue. So if you're pretty eager, want to get in early, you just have to build against that version of Theia. So absolutely feel free to do so. Why not? Feedback definitely welcome. So with that, I see I'm just in time. Are there any questions? So we will also not have language features such as autocompletion, etc. No access to LSP. With our backend, it would be just another editor, right? Yeah. So I guess this was asked before I had my presentation. So every language server which is able to run in the web extension, right? Not all of them will be able to run just out of the box. But once we have full web extension support, every language server which is able to run in the browser can be supported. Absolutely no problem. Will there be a sample project available so we can play with this? Is the next question. Yeah, so as I said, take a look at the issue. So there are 3 links already there. You can play around, and the PR is already open, right? Just go to the linked PR. There you have the whole Theia modifications, which I showed you. And if you want, you can just build against that Theia fork, basically. And if you build against that Theia fork, you have this tooling available, and you can basically just start developing your browser-only Theia applications right as of now. No problem, just do it. Okay. So I'm told there are no other questions, which is good. So we can just finish on time. If there's something, always feel free to drop any comment in the issue, contact us directly, or just come into the Theia meeting. That's fine. Just a late question came in. So the question is how to support things not implemented in TypeScript or JavaScript. That's actually a super good question. So obviously, so the most direct answer is there's like other technologies like WebAssembly, right? So nobody prevents you from loading some WebAssembly module where you ported your C application to and talk to that. Is one way of doing it. And the other way is to talk to services, right? So this whole concept that you have not such a rich application, but just a static site is not too uncommon. So this is architectural pattern was often used, and these applications then talk just to some services, right? So nobody prevents you from contacting your AWS service running somewhere, or maybe you have a service running on GCP, right? You can, with your own extensions, you can basically integrate with whatever is there in the cloud, in the web, and bring this in. It's just effort. Okay, I hope this was good enough. And yeah, thank you very much for coming to my talk. Was very happy to be able to present it here, and wish you a good time for the remainder of TheiaCon.